Looking at the state of the world today, Twitter wars, the economy, the absolute chaos of modern dating, it feels like we are in the trenches. I wake up, I put on my armor, I grab my coffee, and I prepare for combat. But my guest today says I'm doing it all wrong. She says I'm bringing a bayonet to a board game. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are time-traveling back to 1925 to speak with the artist, illustrator, and metaphysical teacher, Florence Scovel Shinn. Florence, welcome to the chaos of the 21st century.
It is a joy to be here, Tivas, and I must correct you immediately. Most people consider life a battle, but it is not a battle, it is a game.
A game? Okay, like Monopoly? Because that usually ends with me flipping the table and ruining friendships.
It is a game of giving and receiving. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. It's quite simple, really. If you give hate, you receive hate. If you give love, you receive love. If you lie, you will be lied to. If you cheat, you will be cheated. It is the spiritual law.
Right, the boomerang effect. But Florence, look around. I know plenty of people who are absolute saints and get crushed, and I know plenty of absolute sharks who are sailing on yachts. If the rules are so clear, why does it feel like the referee is blind?
Because they do not understand the imaging faculty. The imagination has been called the scissors of the mind. It is ever cutting day by day the pictures man sees there. Sooner or later, he meets his own creations in his outer world. You say you know saints who suffer? Perhaps they are good indeed, but what are they imaging? Are they fearing disease? Are they fearing poverty?
So you're saying I can be a nice guy, but if I'm secretly terrified of going broke, I'm essentially ordering a bankruptcy sandwich from the universe?
Precisely. I knew a man who feared a certain disease. It was very rare, difficult to catch, but he pictured it continually. He read about it, he obsessed over it, until it manifested in his body, and he died. He was the victim of a distorted imagination.
That is dark, Florence, but let's break down the mechanics here. You talk about 3 departments of the mind in your book: the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious. Break that down for the modern brain that's been rotted by TikTok.
The subconscious is power without direction. It is like steam or electricity. It does exactly what it is directed to do. It has no power of induction. Whatsoever you feel deeply or image clearly is impressed upon it and carried out in minutest detail.
So it's the intern. It just does what it's told, even if the order is stupid.
It has no sense of humor. People often joke themselves into unhappy experiences. I knew a woman who had a great deal of money, but joked continually about getting ready for the poorhouse. In a few years, she was almost destitute. She impressed the subconscious with a picture of lack.
Note to self, stop joking about my podcast getting canceled. Okay, so that's the subconscious. What about the conscious?
The conscious mind is the mortal or carnal mind. It sees life as it appears to be. It sees death, disaster, sickness, poverty, and limitation. It impresses the subconscious with these wrong pictures.
And the superconscious?
That is the God mind within each man, the realm of perfect ideas, Plato's divine design. There is a place that you are to fill, and no one else can fill.
I like that. It feeds my ego. But how do we access that? Because usually my conscious mind is screaming, "You're late on rent," and my subconscious is saying, "Let's panic." And the superconscious is where? On a coffee break?
You access it through intuition. Jesus Christ said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God." That kingdom is within. It's the hunch, the sudden lead.
The hunch. That sounds like a bad detective movie. Give me an example. How does a hunch pay the rent?
I'll tell you a story. A woman came to me one hot summer day asking for a prosperity treatment. She was worn out and possessed just $8 in the world.
$8. That's barely a latte in this economy.
I said, "Good. We'll bless the $8 and multiply them." I asked her, "Follow your intuition. Do you have a hunch to do anything or go anywhere?" She said, "I don't know. I seem to have a hunch to go home." Her home was in a distant city filled with lack and limitation. Logic would say, stay in New York, get work.
Logic would say, don't spend your last dime on a train ticket to a place where there are no jobs.
Exactly. But I told her, then go home. Never violate a hunch. I spoke the word for her, declaring she was a magnet for all that belonged to her. She went home. Shortly after, she connected with an old family friend. Through this friend, she received thousands of dollars in a miraculous way.
Okay, but Florence, that's survivor bias, isn't it? What if she went home and just starved?
Then she would not have been following a true hunch. Intuition is man's unerring guide, but you must distinguish it from fear. Fear is man's only enemy. Fear of lack, fear of failure. Fear is just inverted faith. It is faith in evil instead of good.
Faith in evil? That's a heavy way to put it. So when I worry, I'm basically praying for a disaster?
Yes, the object of the game of life is to see clearly one's good and obliterate all mental pictures of evil.
Let's talk about relationships, because you have this concept of the divine selection. I have listeners who are swiping left and right, trying to force a connection. You tell a story about a woman obsessed with a guy named A.B.
Ah, yes. She came to me and asked me to speak the word that she would marry A.B. She was very much in love. I told her that would be a violation of spiritual law. You cannot force a specific person.
Wait, you mean I can't manifest a date with a supermodel against her will? That sounds like kidnapping, not spirituality.
Precisely. I told her I would speak the word for the right man, the divine selection. I said, if A.B. is the right man, you can't lose him. If he isn't, you will receive his equivalent.
His equivalent. That sounds like when the grocery store substitutes your brand name chips for the generic ones.
Oh no, Tivas. The equivalent is always better. It is the divine design. This woman saw A.B. frequently, but no headway was made. Then one evening she called me and said, A.B. doesn't seem so wonderful to me. Soon after, she met another man who fell in love with her at once. He was her ideal. She lost all interest in A.B. It was the law of substitution.
So stop gripping the wrong thing so tight so your hands are free to catch the right thing.
Yes, casting the burden. You cannot direct the subconscious effectively while you are anxious. You must cast the burden upon the superconscious. I cast this burden upon the Christ within, and I go free.
Let's talk about money again, because that's what keeps people up at night. You have this idea that hoarding leads to loss. That sounds financially irresponsible, Florence. My accountant would hate you.
The reasoning mind loves to hoard, but there is a spiritual law. There is that scattereth and yet increaseth. I knew a man who wanted a fur-lined overcoat.
Fancy.
He found one, but it cost $500. He only had about $700 total in the world. Logic said you can't afford it, but he was intuitive. He told his wife, if I get this coat, I'll make a ton of money. It made him feel rich.
He bought the vibe.
He invested in his own consciousness. About a month later, he received a $10,000 commission. Without the coat, he would not have felt successful enough to attract the commission.
But there's a fine line there, right? Between acting rich and just being reckless?
It must be done under guidance. It is not about throwing money away foolishly. It is about spending without fear. If you spend with fear, you impress the subconscious with lack. If you spend with faith, you open the way for supply. God is your supply, not your job, not your clients. God.
You mentioned the law of non-resistance. This is the hardest one for me. I'm a fighter. If someone pushes me, I push back. You say, resist, not evil.
Resistance is hell. It places man in a state of torment. The Chinese say water is the most powerful element because it is perfectly non-resistant. It sweeps everything before it.
So if I have a failure or a hater,
Baptize it.
baptize the hater?
Baptize the failure. A metaphysician once told me, I baptize every failure success. Transmute it. If you have an enemy, bless them. Bless your enemy, and you rob him of his ammunition. His arrows are transmuted into blessings.
That is some Jedi mind trick stuff. You can't hurt me because I'm blessing you. It's disarming.
It works. I had a woman who was tormented by a cruel employer. She called her a marble woman. I told her, salute the divinity in that woman.
Hard to salute the divinity when they're firing you.
She tried it. She sent love. A week later, the woman became kind, even took her out in her car. Love is the fulfilling of the law. You can't be hurt if you have no enemies within yourself.
No enemies within yourself. That hits. It's usually me versus me.
Man's only foes are they of his own household. Your doubts, your fears, your resentments.
You talk a lot about words, the power of the word. You say we shouldn't even talk about what we don't want.
Never. A woman invited me over for an old-fashioned chat. I said no. An old-fashioned chat usually consists of 500 to 1,000 destructive words about loss, sickness, and failure. I told her I'd only have a new-fashioned chat about what we want.
You're savage, Florence. Sorry, I can't come over. Your vibes are trash.
You must be careful. By your words you are justified, and by your words you are condemned. I knew a woman who constantly said, I wish I lived in a trunk. She was tired of managing her big house. Eventually, she lost her home and ended up living out of a trunk in a small room. She spoke herself into a trunk.
That's terrifying. I say I'm dead when I laugh. Am I killing myself?
The subconscious takes you literally. It has no sense of humor. You must change your records. Break the old bad records in the subconscious mind.
How? Just affirmations? I am rich, I am pretty?
It must be done with power and conviction. I now smash and demolish by my spoken word every untrue record in my subconscious mind. You must dig your ditches.
Dig ditches.
It's from the Bible. The 3 kings were in the desert without water. The prophet Elisha told them, make this valley full of ditches. They had to prepare for the rain before the rain came. Act as if.
So if I want a new apartment, buy the furniture first.
Exactly. A woman I knew needed an apartment in New York during a shortage. Everyone said it was impossible. She bought new blankets. She said, I'll dig my blankets by buying the blankets. She prepared for the apartment, acted as though she already had it. She found one in a miraculous way.
It's active faith. Not just sitting on the couch visualizing, but moving your feet.
Faith without works is dead. You must show the subconscious you expect the good.
Florence, you wrote this book in the 20s. We've had 100 years of The Secret, Manifestation, all these spin-offs. But your work feels sharper, less fluffy. Why do you think that is?
Because I do not deny the darkness. I simply deny its power. I acknowledge that the army of aliens, the negative thoughts, are there. But I teach you how to put them to flight. It is practical Christianity. It is a science.
A science.
The science of the mind. You are the engineer.
One thing that strikes me is your view on karma. You say we can transcend it.
The law of karma is cause and effect, but there is a higher law. the law of grace, the law of forgiveness. You can call on the law of forgiveness to neutralize your mistakes. You don't have to suffer forever for a past error.
That's a relief, because I made some questionable fashion choices in 2010 that I'd like to not be punished for.
Call on the law of forgiveness. I am under grace and not under law.
I am under grace and not under law. I like that. It feels lighter.
Life should be light. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. If you are carrying a burden, you are violating the law. Cast it.
What about when things go wrong immediately after you start this? You call it chemicalization. It's like when you decide to clean your room and for the first hour, it looks messier than when you started.
Exactly. A big demonstration is usually preceded by tormenting thoughts. The old beliefs rise to the surface to be put out. It is the darkness before the dawn. You must clap your cymbals and rejoice that you are saved, even when you are surrounded by the enemy.
That takes guts, to stand in the middle of the fire and say, "This is fine. I'm actually winning."
Having done all, stand. Stand your ground.
You have this phrase, the divine design. How does someone know if they are following their divine design or just their ego?
The divine design is always the square of life. Health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. If you are miserable in your work, it is not your divine design. Perfect self-expression will never be labor. It will be of such absorbing interest that it will seem almost like play.
So, if I hate Mondays, I'm off track.
You are resisting your good. There is a perfect plan for you. You should demand to see it. Infinite Spirit, open the way for the divine design of my life to manifest. Let the genius within me now be released.
I think a lot of people are scared of that genius. They're scared they might actually be great.
Stage fright. It's just fear of personality. You must realize that you are a channel for infinite intelligence. When you take the ego out, the fear goes. I am fully equipped for the divine plan of my life.
Florence, we're running low on time, but I want to ask you about the law of use. You mentioned the woman with the necklaces.
Ah, yes. She had 67 necklaces. She wrapped them in tissue paper and never wore them. She hoarded them. Her arms became paralyzed.
Wait, literally paralyzed.
Literally. She held on so tight to things that her body locked up. Congestion of things causes congestion in the body. You must keep things in circulation. Use what you have. If you don't use your ability, you lose it. If you don't use your money, it stagnates.
So use the good china, wear the expensive sneakers.
Be fearless. Fear of loss creates loss.
What is the single most important affirmation you would give to someone listening right now who feels stuck, who feels like the game is rigged against them?
I would tell them to say this. I banish the past. I bless the future. I live fully in the now. And for prosperity, God is my unfailing supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace, in perfect ways.
Under grace. I keep coming back to that. It means you don't have to struggle for it.
Struggle is unnecessary. You are pulling the strings yourself, though you do not know it. The invisible forces are ever working for man who is always pulling the strings himself.
Florence, you make the metaphysical sound like common sense.
It is the only sense that matters, Tivas.
Touché. Everyone, stop fighting the battle. Start playing the game. Dig your ditches, buy the fur coat, responsibly. And for God's sakes, stop saying you live in a trunk. Florence, thank you for joining me.
It has been a pleasure.